Okay, these are your frontal plane arm swings. Frontal plane means I'm moving in this um, plane, as opposed to like sagittal plane movement, which means I'm moving in this plane, or transverse plane movement, which means I'm moving in this plane. So we're going to be working side to side, you could call it, and these are simply frontal plane arm swings side to side. So to start, take a comfortable stance, feet hips width underneath you. And the first thing to note about this is that while one foot and leg stays in relatively the same position, I'm going to twist. I'm going to actually pick up the heel of my opposite foot and turn. So you can see that while this leg, the bones of this leg, stay where they are, all the structures of my pelvis on top of this, my left leg, turns toward it. So what's happening here is there's a twist in the hip joint. The acetabulum is the socket of the pelvis that rests on top of the femoral head. The femoral head is the knob at the top of your femur bone. There's a femur bone, there's a femoral neck, and then there's a femoral head. And the shape of that is different on everybody. So what we're doing here is we are moving the pelvis on top of the femur. Because we have this rotation in the femur, there is not rotation in the knee. So this is a really important distinction because we are going to be twisting. We are going to be doing this side to side movement. And what's going to happen if, for example, I keep my feet fixed on the ground while I rotate my body, I could tweak my knee by trying to put rotational forces into the knee. Now you can see, I'm just going to do a little close up here. You can see the knee does have the ability to rotate. So now my foot is off the floor, right? It's floating in space. And you can see that what I'm doing here is I'm rotating my lower leg bone against my femur. So my femur is not changing position. I'm going to show this from the other side. But what's changing position is the tibia, the lower leg bone. I'm rotating to the left, rotating to the right, twisting left, twisting right. So there is rotation in the knee, but it's very small, right? That was a very small range of motion, as opposed to the rotation in the hip joint. Now I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to keep my pelvis fixed and I'm going to move my femur against my pelvis. I go all the way out, I go all the way across, all the way out, all the way across. That's a much larger range of motion than we have in the knee. So we have a lot of rotational capacity in our hip joints. It's a ball and socket joint. The knee is not a ball and socket joint. It doesn't like a lot of rotation. So with all that in mind, take your stance, feet underneath your hips, arms out to the side. I'm going to free my right foot, meaning I'm going to pick my right heel up off the floor. I'm going to drop my right arm and turn. So now my right hand is right next to my left hand. My left leg hasn't really changed. I've rotated in my hip joint. There's a little bit of rotational force going down through the femur, passing through the knee joint into the foot, but not very much at all. It's well within this safe range of motion for the knee joint. I open back up, I rotate to the right. Twist, twist, twist. Excuse me. So there's this rotation in the hip. Picking up the heel and twisting facilitates that. Also, as I do this over time, the foot of my standing leg does end up a little bit externally rotated. So hopefully you can see that on camera. I don't end up perfectly parallel. I do end up slightly turned out or externally rotated with the foot of the standing leg. So here, twist, here, twist, here, twist. And I look to my hands. My hands are at the level of my eyes, and I look past my hands, and my hands are both facing the same direction. So these are your frontal plane arm swings, side to side. Now I'm going to show one more level of complexity. if you want to try to add this in, nothing changes in the mechanics of the lower body. However, you just start adding a double bounce. So I'm letting my elbow literally bounce off of my rib cage. And then I still have this moment when both of my hands are in the same position on either side of me. It's just that you can see my arms are going bounce, bounce, left, left, right, right. I'm going to go back to the regular version. And if I were to take the arms out of it entirely, it's just this. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up in the comments section of this workout and enjoy.